Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Stephen Curry's three-pointers allowed the Golden State Warriors to go deep into the playoffs for half a decade and win 3 NBA championships. The Indian Express spoke to GSW assistant coach Bruce Fraser to understand how Curry changed basketball.
Yeah, I think a lot of work goes into developing a shot. You know, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are probably two of the best, if not the best shooters in the world. They both have really good mechanics. You know, mechanics generally start at an earlier age and they mature. So I wouldn't want to take credit for the mechanics of Steph's shot as much as just helping with some of the work. But to me, there's a few components that make a shooter great. One is the shot, the mechanics of the shot. Everyone's shot is different. So I hate to say, well, this person has the perfect shot, because I think that's an old textbook sort of saying. There are certain ways that really help a shot and lessen the margin of error. And so if you can sort of, if the mechanics can lessen margin for error, then that really helps. The second part of aside from the mechanics of being a great shooter to me is partly genetics. How good is your muscle memory, your hand-eye coordination? You can improve that, but I think, and it's not like someone has to be crazy genetically gifted, but there is an element of genetics that applies to shots. Whether you have a lot of that or a little of that, the last part of making a good shooter is the work, is the amount of time you put into that craft. And Steph Curry puts in more time than any player that I've ever worked with in the league on his shot still. I would say it's the one thing that makes him great, or those three things, is his work and his passion for sort of putting time into his craft, his mechanics of his shot, and then I think he's genetically gifted, you know, from his dad, who was a great player and a great shooter, and his mom was a great athlete. And I know I'm probably saying too much, but I would say just because you're genetically gifted doesn't mean you're going to be great. So you have to really put the time into it and find sort of that mechanical, the balance of what you're doing. So Steph, in my opinion, could have been great at a lot of things. Could have been still is a great golfer. You know, could have been a great tennis player. He's a gifted athlete and has incredible hand-eye coordination. But he chose to put his talents into basketball. And he works more than anyone I know at that. I mean, that's the way the game is going now, with, you know, spacing, multiple shooters, even bigs that can shoot, and really spreading the floor, allowing driving lanes and what we call drive and kick, and kicking to shooters that can knock down those catch and shoot shots. Specific to Steph, he's a great catch and shoot player, but I think he's probably the best in the world at shooting off the dribble. And so I think shooters have to be able to catch and shoot and also be able to create shots off the dribble. And not all players can do that. When you get into the playoffs and into sort of the critical parts of games down the stretch, you can't always rely on someone else creating a shot for one of your players. Steph is extremely good at being able to create his own shot off the dribble. I would say that's the other element, aside from the catch and shoot, that's really important for shooters. He's the best in the world at shooting off the dribble and being able to create his own shot. Ray was a great catch and shoot player. He could also create a little bit, but he was much better at catching and shooting or coming off pins. And Nash was a little more rounded as a playmaker. He could shoot it off the dribble some, and he had to create his own shot, but he also could catch and shoot. But I think what separates Steph is he can get his shot off so fast. The speed of the release is crazy. Been polished over time in his work. And like I'll say it again, but he can create his own shot off the dribble. To me, that's what separates him. I guess I should add one more thing. If he was a boxer, he'd be like a knockout puncher, like a fighter that knocks you out. He wouldn't go a lot of rounds. So Steph can have games where the other team is in the game for some of it, and then he'll just go on a run. But I would also say he's not a streaky shooter, but when he gets going, he may put 4 or 5 threes on your head, sort of, where you go from a 4-point game to a 15, 16-point game pretty quickly. And he has that ability to knock a team out. And that's, to me, what is maybe the most scary thing about him is once he's going like that, no matter what you do defensively, he's going to make some amazing shots. And that's what makes him brilliant. He not only, in my opinion, made three-point shooting kind of sexy, almost better than a dunk, where kids started emulating him and started working on their shot more. I remember when I was growing up, everyone just wanted to dunk, and it seems like now more people are working on their shot. Steph was responsible for that because he was so exciting to watch. And not only was he making amazing shots from the three-point line, but his range, the distance he was shooting from was crazy. And I think that is what started the craze of this like new era where the three-point shot became so exciting. Steph was making shots from all over the floor, with guys running at him off the dribble. Our team would even, would give up layups at times to throw it to Steph, who was out at the three-point line, knowing that was, three versus two opportunity. He probably single-handedly changed the way the game was played based on his three-point proficiency and his range. That dilemma really fell on Steve Kerr and not me as much. But we all, especially myself and Steve, sort of discussed Steph specifically and the topic of, how do you try and control some of this sort of Mustang wild spirit. What we decided was that we were better off to let Steph make some mistakes and take some kind of crazy shots, knowing that the reward was going to be much better or bigger than the discipline of trying to control a player like that. So it's probably pretty obvious, but Steph has free reign to shoot whenever he wants and to sort of maneuver in his own way as long as he's playing within the team. And I think that's one of the things that Steve Kerr did really well when he took over as coach, was he got our whole team to play with movement and with passing, and Steph bought into that. So in credit to him, he is a very team-oriented player. He chooses the team first, but he also is such a talented shooter that you have to let him make his own choices, and we try not to control too much of that. We were fortunate with the personnel that we had and the players to experiment with it. So we, as coaches, weren't certain that it was going to work. It was a bit of an experiment. It was, Steve is a really good, smart coach. We didn't know it was going to work, but we experimented with it, and when we did, it was powerful, and it made the other teams. Even though we felt like maybe we were compromising ourselves on defense, it really gave us thrust offensively and more spacing and more shooting. So Draymond specifically is so strong for his size and can guard any position that he was able to guard fives. You can't play small ball unless you have someone that can guard, multiple positions. At that same time, we had Harrison Barnes, who was our 3. He was able to guard a 4 or a 5 even at times. So with Harrison at the 4 and Draymond at the 5, giving up too much on the defensive end and compromising our defense. So we experimented with it. It worked. We wouldn't use it all game. It wasn't something that you could play for long durations, but it was kind of a microwave or a really quick way to give your team a burst and usually create a bigger lead with the small lineup. They're everything. I mean, if you don't have the ability to be versatile defensively, then you really compromise your defense. So with our teams, we've been able to switch at times 1 through 5, especially with those small lineups. And the guys that are sort of what you say, two-way players that can not only defend at a high level, but can score at a high level. Those guys are invaluable. And the 2 you speak of, Draymond and Clay specifically, that's why they're all-stars, because they can do both. And that's why we've won championships. We've been versatile. We've been able to play small. We have a high potency offense and a sophisticated, versatile defense. Everyone thinks it's our shooting, our 3-point shooting, that's won us these titles, but I think it's really our defensive versatility and our ability to, adapt to what other teams do and to compromise their defense at times with our offense while still not compromising our own. That's been the magic to our team.